Hello everybody, editing Shortline here. Before we get into the video, when I started work on this last week, it was just going to be about CSX and Ancora. However, it's since been reported that BNSF will not be bidding for CSX, at least not yet. This is big news, and I would have liked to make a separate video on it, but college is eating my time right now. So I'm shoehorning the BNSF story into this video, which was mostly edited already. If it's a bit confusing because of that, I apologize. I can clear things up in the comments if anyone has any questions. Hello everybody, my name is Shortline819 and welcome back to episode 17 of Shortline's Rail News and Comment. We will be talking about Ancora's little letter to CSX and how that relates to the current merger environment. And we will also talk about BNSF not bidding for CSX yet. With that out of the way, what's an Ancora? Well, Ancora is a wealth management and advisory firm known for its activist investing. Activist investing is when a person or organization buys a large stake in a company in order to pressure its management to make changes. This isn't always a bad thing, as there are plenty of activist investors who force positive changes upon companies. However, they can also be a vehicle for private equity firms who come in as corporate raiders. They make as much money they can in the short run while selling out before the long-term consequences of such a strategy can catch up to them. Ancora has been seen in this light before. They have previously targeted companies such as Kohl's, C.H. Robinson, Berry Global, U.S. Steel, and of course, Norfolk Southern. Back in 2024, Ancora bought up $1 billion worth of NS stock and sought to have then CEO Alan Shaw ousted, along with replacing 7 of 13 board members. Ancora also wanted a major reemphasis on precision scheduled railroading operating principles. Ancora somewhat succeeded. After a very vicious campaign where Ancora used rather questionable tactics, they did force some operational change while also getting 3 of their candidates elected to the board. Shaw remained CEO, although he eventually helped oust himself after cheating on his wife with a fellow executive. Ancora's board members were key in pushing for an investigation into Shaw's, let's just say, missteps. Now Ancora is back, and they have bought a stake in CSX and want the railroad to publicly announce that it is working with advisors on merger options in the light of UP&S. According to Bloomberg, CSX already started doing this quote-unquote covertly back on July 31st. Note that Ancora's letter was sent to the CSX board on August 6th. CSX might have leaked the story to take some pressure off of them from Ancora. Note that this was a week after the UP&S deal was announced. They also claim that current CSX CEO Joe Hinrichs is incompetent, hinting he should be replaced with former COO Jamie Boychuk, whose name they misspell. It should also be noted that on August 22nd, BNSF and CSX announced an intermodal partnership, which could be interpreted as the first step towards merger. This could have happened without a merger, but the timing is highly suspect, considering the pressure the two have been under due to both UP&S and Ancora. So, what does Ancora's letter say exactly? It starts by Ancora stating that they have found little in the way of substantive accomplishments under the leadership of Hinrichs. In fact, they seem to insinuate that Hinrichs is far more interested in managing his and CSX's social media than actually running the railroad. The epitome of this being CSX getting caught flat-footed when Union Pacific-Norfolk Southern announced their merger. The letter goes on to criticize Hinrichs and CSX for not taking sweeping actions in the face of the UP&S merger, specifically questioning why CSX did not engage in its own merger discussions with UP. Ancora also says that in their discussions with CSX stakeholders, Hinrichs was given low marks, with Ancora themselves calling him both inexperienced and insecure. To be fair, you could make a case for the former, due to Hinrichs' background in the automotive industry and not railroading. As for the latter, this to me seems like a weirdly inappropriate personal attack to put in such a letter. Ancora urges the CSX board to take immediate action as it relates to mergers, then lists a series of reasons why Hinrichs should be removed. They include 1. Anemic shareholder returns, criticizing the financial returns of CSX since 2022 as compared to the period between 2015 and 2022. 2. Disastrous operational performance, highlighted by a big jump in the operating ratio from 58% to 67% during Hinrichs' tenure. CSX went from first to last. The firing of ex-COO Jamie Boychuk and other EHH proteges is also criticized. He lurks. 3. Poor personnel selection, including current COO Mike Corey, who is alleged to have been fired from Canadian National for poor performance, and CCO Kevin Boone, who does not have a marketing background. 4. Blown opportunities, mostly pointing to the fact that CSX did not engage with discussions with another Class 1 railroad regarding merger over the past few months. Ancora says this could be the case because any merger would likely require Hinrichs to give up his job. This very well might be the case, however, that doesn't change the reality of the situation. Stanley Crane hated the idea of merging his beloved Southern with the Norfolk and Western, but was forced to do so in the face of the CSX merger. Same thing here. Ancora finishes off their letter by saying that it is imperative that CSX engage in immediate merger discussions with either BNSF or CPKC, noting that BNSF has highly disciplined negotiators in addition to a financial position that would allow it to pay for CSX mostly in cash. CPKC is floated as an alternative due to the track record of current CEO Keith Creel, while also recognizing that any cross-border merger carries higher regulatory risk. Now, this is interesting because the traditional wisdom ever since UP and NS announced their merger is that CSX and BNSF would announce their own merger. CPKC hasn't really been floated around as an aim until now. Under such a scenario, CPKC-CSX would probably have to sell either the ex-Delaware and Hudson or the ex-New York Central Montreal line to another railroad. But such a merger would solidify the two railroads' quote-unquote new routing via the Meridian and Bigby. Ancora rightfully notes that any CPKC-CSX merger might gain the ire of the current White House administration, since it would be a major Canadian railroad acquiring a major American one. However, they suggest that such a deal could be a reverse merger, whereby CSX buys CPKC, but CPKC management remains in place. I don't really understand this suggestion, as I highly doubt many in Hoserland would want half their national rail infrastructure under the control of the Americans, especially when one factors in all of the annexation bluster we saw at the beginning of the year. I'm not saying that a cross-border merger is flatly impossible, just that it is far less likely. I could be very wrong, though. Creel did say during CPKC's Q2 earnings call that it would try and seek greater access to the Gulf Coast chemical plants as a condition of UPNS, and that it was actively looking at mergers of their own, so don't fully count the Canadians out of the merger festivities just yet. Now, this section was originally going to be about how I thought Ancora was hoping to ignite a bidding war between BNSF and CPKC for CSX. That still might be the case. However, it was reported on August 25th that Buffett says that BNSF will not be bidding for CSX or NS. This is massive news and greatly shakes up how we thought this process was going to go down. As for why, I think this is representative of BNSF's cautious approach towards whether or not any merger would get approval. If UPNS is approved, then BNSF will absolutely have to go after either CSX or Canadian National. If UPNS is denied, no harm on BNSF's part, they just stay as they are. This does create an opening for either CPKC or CN to buy CSX. While I still think such mergers would be unlikely to be approved, the chances that there will at least be an attempt have gone up greatly in my opinion. If CPKC and CSX merge, that would probably force BNSF and CN to try another merger, creating 3 systems across the continent in addition to UPNS. Back to the letter, CSX rebuffed it, stating that it is built on misrepresentations, which stem from recent circumstances the railroad has found itself in. These can include the impact of recent hurricanes, the fact that only so many trains can go through the Howard Street Tunnel while they cleared for double stacks, and the costs of paying NS for trackage rights, inadvertently recreating the alphabet route actually, but that's besides the point. Now, of course, these could be part of it. They could be the whole story, they could be not. I can't really judge either way. Additionally, the railroad has claimed that it has delivered top-tier financial performance and has beat many of its recent financial goals. CSX is not the only objector. City research analyst Ariel Rosa found the letter to be aggressive, while misrepresenting facts and painting a picture of CSX as either bumblingly clueless, idiotically stubborn, or a mix of both. Ancora claims they have bought a large stake in CSX, while City believes it is probably less than about 0.2%. They advise caution rather than rushing into things. Do I think Ancora will be successful in either ousting Hinrichs or pushing CSX into a merger with CPKC now that BNSF appears to be off the table for the time being? As for the former, it's a possibility, however, I can't really tell how likely it is, considering the last time that Ancora tried to do this at Norfolk Southern and with Alan Shaw. As for the latter, I think Ancora is basically just inserting themselves into a process which was already going to happen. They're basically a scalper, if you're familiar with what those are. The biggest possible change from this is that CSX could enter into a deal with CPKC, which would be massive and would completely disrupt how we thought this process was going to go down to begin with. However, from Ancora's perspective, I consider whatever railroad that CSX ultimately ends up merging with to be secondary to them. Their main goal is just to drive up the price any railroad would have to pay for CSX, drive up that premium. That would be fantastic for shareholders, including me, who both has stock in CSX and CPKC, see beginning disclaimer. and, well, Ancora themselves. And in that, I think that they will be very, very successful. It's good for my wallet, even if I frankly despise Ancora and groups like them. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I wanted to go more in depth about the response of shippers, unions, and politicians to the merger, but I don't have that kind of time anymore due to a little thing called college. There are some links to some sources in the description about that though, so please go read up on them. Thank you to everyone for the various photos used. I did get to use my own footage for once because I basically railfed nothing but CSX. Additional credits are in the description. See you all in the next one. Goodbye, everybody.